Moving on to step 5, we're actually going to apply these skills into an actual sketch. This will happen in your engineering notebook, and there's the instructions for number 5. You can find these on MyCW. It says sketch an isometric view of the object. This is optional, so I'm actually not going to do that in here because it's an optional part of this. It says then dimension the orthographic projections. That is not optional, I need to do that. And then line spacing on the grid equals 0.125 inches. That's how I'm going to find my dimensions. The orthographic projections, that is my front, side, then I still haven't drawn it yet, but the top view. As I'm drawing this in my engineering notebook, I need to make sure that all of my views line up so that the bottom of the front side, the top of the front side all line up, and that when I'm drawing the top view, that the left and the right side line up between the top. Alright, so let's go ahead and begin. Yeah, it's also very important before we begin that you make sure that each of these squares lines up with a square on your engineering notebook. Alright. So here in my engineering notebook, I have correctly labeled this as step 5. I'm going to leave some room right here for my top view. Come down here and do my front view. And it was 6 squares, down 3. And over 6, down 3, 12, 6 squares along the top. Now, those squares are what I use to draw this, but those are not my dimensions. I'll need to use the 0.25 inches as my dimension later on. And as I'm drawing my side view over here, bottom, 3, for my top view, it is going to be 3 wide, and 12 long. And then from the top I would see this line down the middle. Alright, so now that I have my 3 orthographic projections, it's time for me to add the dimensions. And here I need to follow my dimensioning rules, as well as make sure that I use this correct line spacing. So each line space counts each space in the grid counts as 0.125 inches. So I'll have to use that to calculate each of my dimensions. Alright, so I'm just going to flip to the rules and go. Our dimensions should reflect the actual size of the object, not the scaled size, which means I'm going to be using the 0.125 inches as my scale, not the number of squares. Include overall dimensions in the 3 principal directions: height, width, and depth. And overall dimensions should be placed furthest distance away from the object so the intermediate dimensions can nest together to avoid cross extension lines. Alright, so what that means Oh, and then also don't forget that rule number 7, that I should place dimensions between the adjacent views. So first I'm going to start out with my overall length. I want to place that in between this view and this view. I'm going to do it on my front view up here. And I want it to be pretty far away from the view so that I have room for other dimensions in here. You'll notice, well, you may not be able to tell, but I'm using a much lighter stroke as I'm doing these lines. Kind of a little above that, so I use this line for my dimension. And then I need to draw arrows. I need the space in the middle to write the number. To find the number, I need to use a calculator and multiply 12 squares by 0.125. So when I do that, I got 1.5 inches. So my overall width is 1.5. I guess my overall length there is 1.5 inches. Alright, and then I'm going to do my overall height as well. I'm going to do that over here. Making sure that it's between my front and side view. And then it's going to be 6 times 0.125. Plug that in the calculator. And I got 0.75 inches. And then I also need my width, which I can place either here or here. I should place it up here. Let's copy again. Extension lines. And then again, that is 3 times 0.125, which is 0.375 inches. So now I've done my overall dimensions. Okay, it says include all dimensions necessary to produce or inspect the part, which that is not necessary for the observer to calculate, scale, or shape. Okay. So this just means I need to, so the main features of this piece, I look looking at on the front view, that it is kind of an L-shaped piece with this top part and then this bottom part. I just need to know what is the distance from here to here, and I will need to know what is the distance from the bottom to the middle here. So I wanted to create this much. So I'm going to come back in. And this is 6 squares times 0.125 inches is 0.75 inches. And then round up. That's 30 squares times 0.125, 0.375 inches. And this is all I would need to create this one, because if I know the height of this, then I know the height to here, because I already have the overall height. If I know the height of the width of this, then I automatically know the width of this, because I already have the overall width. This is all technically correct. Now that I'm looking at it, I wish that I had done my overall height over here on the front view, because it just looks a little bit better when you have your dimensions nested. That's where you have the overall view and the next smallest view and the next smallest view, so on and so forth. And so I wish I'd put both of these two numbers on the same view, but it is still technically correct. All right, let me go back down. Rules. All right, do not include unnecessary dimensions. So I need to check for duplicate dimensions. So I see here I've got 0.75 here and 0.75 here, but even though there's the same number, they're measuring two different things, so that's not a duplicate dimension. Same with this, the 0.375 and the 0.375. This is measuring the height of this L piece, and this is measuring the width of the overall. So these are two different measurements, even though they're the same number. Dimension should be attached to be the best shows the contour of the feature to be dimensioned. That's why I chose the front view here, because I thought the front view showed the L the best, and so it was the best view to show the height of the bottom and the width of this piece right here. All dimensions should be attached to only one view. So all my dimensions are attached to only one view. If I had drawn extension lines up here, that would have made this wrong, but I didn't break that rule. Place dimensions between adjacent views when possible. I did that. So I placed it between the front and top, placed it between the front and the side. Avoid dimensioning hidden lines. There were no hidden lines, so I didn't have to worry about that. Do not place dimensions on an object unless it's absolutely necessary. I don't have any unnecessary dimensions on here. Do not cross a dimension line with another dimension line or the extension line. Check. Did not cross here. Did not cross here. So we're good. And this is also why it's important to draw your overall dimensions pretty far away from your piece, because that way you're not running any risk of crossing with an extension line. Leader lines, don't have any leader lines. Dimensions should be centered between arrowheads. Do that. And then I don't have any circles or holes, so I don't have to worry about that. This is another good thing to do. As you're going just to use this quick checklist. Again, we don't have to worry about the isometric view, but using this checklist to double check that you didn't make any mistakes is a much shorter version of these rules. And that is how you do step 5.